Look, I know you've already achieved unheard of levels of success as an entrepreneur, so the real question is, while the world is radically shifting, how do we not get caught up in the chaos, but instead access our untapped capacity? You know what I'm talking about. I'm Katie Richardson, business coach to superstar entrepreneurs and host of What's Working Now. I'm here to show you how to unlock and magnify your untapped potential so that we can create the dream, live with purpose, and do what we are born to do. On this podcast, we are asking a different set of questions. Be present, be curious, be right now. Let's go. Hit that subscribe button and go to whatsworkingnow.com, drop in your email, join the waitlist so you never miss an episode of What's Working Now. And I'll see you on the inside.
Hey, it's Katie. I'm your host, What's Working Now. If you feel like you are in the trenches of entrepreneurship, you are going to love today's conversation. I am here with Mike Rhoads, who's literally in the trenches right there alongside with you. And who is Mike Rhoads? He is a Christian husband and father to two beautiful children. He is the owner of Rhoads Home Buyers and podcast, the Rhoads to Success podcast. He is partnering with innovative pool solutions and business development for Go Rooter Trenchless Sewer. Mike is the guy who takes blue collar industry entrepreneurs, helps them better define their brand, their business, and market it in a way where they can eliminate the competition, rise above, and ultimately provide the world with their incredible services that they have. Mike, welcome to the show.
Katie, thank you so much for having me.
And you're very welcome. I'm so excited to dive into this because it's so unique and different. And I think there's just naturally so many questions that happen. I want to make sure everybody hears in the beginning, you're even taking this market of helping blue collar entrepreneurs, and you're even creating a new podcast that's going to be released probably, maybe it was just released depending on when this comes out, but you're releasing a new podcast called The Underground Pipe Dreams. Tell us. Okay, I don't want to go into that yet. I just wanted to make sure people know that. We're going to get to that. But before we hop into that, I want to see a little bit more of your unique perspective, because clearly there is a really incredible story driving a lot of this. So tell us the story of that experience that has shaped this unique perspective that you have.
So my entire being has always been a little bit more of like the hands-on approach. So I guess it kind of dates back to my background has always been in sports. Like my whole life being has been around sports. Baseball is my thing. I even played baseball in college before getting injured and then finally settling into a degree just to finish, right? Never was really one on the traditional education style. Like I've always kind of, I guess, challenged the status quo per se. Ever since I got bit with like the entrepreneurial bug, my family, I guess I've always been grown up around like small business owners and solopreneurs and stuff like that. My mom, everything, my uncles, cousins, everybody's kind of owned like their own business, nothing massive, but they've always been around it. And so I've always kind of seen that. And then like while in school, I kind of always seen like the entrepreneur side. So I always knew like I really wanted to go that route. But I had a couple, my first take at it was through like multi-level marketing. I know it gets a bad rep just because some businesses, they are what they are. But it was some of the most like diverse and hands-on training and sales experience that I probably ever had. And I got to really understand at a deeper level what it's like to be fully immersed into that. So that's kind of like always been in the back of my mind, which then ended up leading me into sales and outside sales and things like that once I got out of school. Around this area, the big thing at that time happened to be there was like the oil and gas boom, right? So all my friends and everything started to run towards that, and all the businesses started to rise up because as businesses and things like that were moving in, all the other businesses were rising as a result of that. So, I mean, everything from they were shopping, their real estate was starting to boom up because they needed housing, to the diners and restaurants and things like that. So started to get an introduction to that, which led me into that career path. once I dove into the oil and gas side of things, I really started to see like the blue collar work style, right? So it's like Mike Rowe with Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
He talks like everything about it, right? Like all these businesses that operate underground in the trenches behind the scenes that keeps our day-to-day life active, right? So it was like
Yeah.
I got to see that first on, and that kind of like really, I felt like my DNA kind of aligned with that work style. It was like how you see like all these millions and millions of dollars being generated by people that don't show up to work in a suit and tie, right? So it was almost like
Yeah.
we was almost like the rednecks of Wall Street, almost, right? Because you're still dealing with
Mm.
such a high end, like fast paced, high revenue work environment that was dictated by the political fields and everything else like that. So while I was in I guess that's kind of like while I was in there, like I start to my values and how I see the world started to reflect across the board with everything. From the way like I see like how politics and everything else like starts to dive into our day-to-day lives and change and dictate everything. And it just kind of everything that we do. And so nonetheless, while I was there, after I ended up getting out, I had a friend of mine, his name's Shad Matthews. He, at the same time I was running the frac race, he was running in the trenchless sewer repair race. So we were both always talking and kind of in the background. And I was kind of always like beating his ear off about like, because I was always interested in what he was doing just for the fact that it was different, right? And if you're not familiar with trenchless sewer repair, it's basically um, the ability to go in and like say if Katie, say if your yard, if you had cast iron sewer, right? And if your line got clogged up into tree roots or something like that, crushed it, an excavator would have to come in and dig up your entire beautiful yard and all this other stuff,
Yeah.
right? Well,
I have
trenchless,
had that.
really?
By the way, yeah.
Well, we have the ability
Tree
to come
roots.
in. Yeah. Well, we have the ability to come in and you can send a robot, you can clean out the tree roots and everything else like that from just an entry point. And then we can come in
Wow.
and shoot a new liner in and completely
Wow.
fix and repair the sewer line without ever having to rip up your yard or anything else like that.
That's
So
wild.
yeah, so when he was telling me about that, I grew interest to it, right? Because I kind of like I've always had a knack for creative things like that. So but long story short, fast forward, we ended up um I ended up starting to learn marketing while I was out in the field because while I was out there, I mean, I was spending about 200 and some days a year out of a hotel. I was living in a hotel about 200 some
Wow.
days a year. And while I was there, I met my now wife. And we had our first kid on the way. So I needed to figure out a way, how can I transition out of this? And while I was out in the field, we're working 12, 14-hour shifts. I started to figure out, like, while I was in the van, I started to learn marketing. And then that's whenever I started to be able to make the transition out of the field into a marketing seat. So I'll come back and touch on the story about my wife here in a second. So got into the marketing field. Shad, this is where it comes full circle. I ended up bringing him on as a partner in the marketing company. And so we kind of been working together and we were working together, growing that and working with the local businesses. And he's like, well, I just went off on my own not long ago with my sewer company. How can we like tie the two in? So we went back and forth, back and forth. And then just recently, a couple months ago, he was like, he's like, I've been looking to rebrand. Why don't you come on board and like bring your system approach mindset and the marketing and then plug it into here. And like, I'll take care of the operations. You take care of the back end and systems. I want to rebrand this thing. Here's the vision. And then we've just been kind of running with it. And we've also, like, he has a couple other sectors, Pool Daddy, right? We were talking about pools and things like that. So like Sewer Daddy, Pool Daddy. And we've just been rebranding into that and working to grow it. And that's just been my thing, is just because like I've always had such a drive and a pull towards these small businesses and like these businesses that are service based that people often don't think twice about, right? Like sewer
Yeah.
isn't sexy. Nobody,
It is
nobody
not.
wants to call a plumber or to get a sewer repair because they want to,
Mhm.
right? It's because they have
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
right? And especially with this timing of the market, with the recession and everything else like that. And it's like, hey, like this is a service that people need. They don't want it, but nobody wants stuff backed up in their house and stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
if we can give out a great product to the marketplace, I would love to attach my name to it and do that. So
That's
that's kind of like
so
the 10,000 foot overview of where I'm at.
yeah. Yeah. It's really cool to hear kind of the combination of things, right? This experience out in the trenches, out in the fields with oil and
Mhm.
gas, and your experience in sales within the MLM world and learning how to describe and sell products and market them,
Mhm.
and like having this personal connection with blue collar entrepreneurs, blue collar work style, and like really seeing the value that those people bring.
Mhm.
And at the same time, they do have this tremendous need. They're so skilled at their thing. They're not marketers. They're not branders. Like that's, and
Yeah.
they're so busy fulfilling on the services that people are hiring them for. And, as a homeowner myself, I've had great home services people and horrible ones, right? And
Yeah.
those great ones are so valuable. They're the ones that you tell all your friends about. They're the ones you call again and again and again.
Right.
And so what's sad is if that guy who's great at delivering on services doesn't have his name out there in a way that I know him, then he's at a disadvantage to the guy who's a great marketer, but not
Yep.
necessarily great on delivering in the blue collar workspace, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
And so you saw this need and you are solving a problem. So primarily when you got started, was it like agency style where you were helping people? Because like here's the other issue a lot of times they run into is they don't have a very big budget. So how were they able to work with you? How could you provide enough value that they could afford you?
Yeah. So with the agencies, so like talking about the agency part, um, we just like at most, I'm sure it was a struggle. Like we bounced around from a couple different like niches and everything and trying to figure out like where we are and where we can do. And like we played around from, like when I first got started, it was like $1,000 a month. It was always like that flat fee, right? And then it quickly
Mhm.
started to shift towards like pay per results, right? So pay per lead, pay per acquisition model. So like it's been like a constant just shifting pattern just to be able to chase it. So it's like you kind of have to be a little bit forward thinking to see like, all right, what's the marketplace doing? How's it affecting my client? And then how's it going to transition into my world, right? Because at the end
Mhm.
of the day, businesses tend to cut marketing first. Like when things get tight, like the first thing they want to do is cut marketing, which is always like the hardest part. So it's like if you cut off the
Mhm.
oxygen to the
Mhm.
life, like marketing is the lifeline, right? It's the oxygen to your business. If you cut off the oxygen, the business dies. People don't really think about that. They kind of just like curl up. So it's kind of always been the struggle. But what we ended up settling into was more so like a front end model. It was more so like um, this worked really well with a couple of the med spa clients that we worked with. We did more so like a 90-day
Mm.
approach and like a done with you / coaching program. That would basically we created a system. We plugged the system into their business. We bolted it onto the back end. We trained them and taught them for 90 days how to use it. And then on the back end, it's basically just like a SaaS / drip model
Okay.
that we come in and just adjust things as needed here and there for like a flat fee, which really seemed to work out pretty well.
Okay. So, I mean, what I'm hearing you say is you've built out custom packages and opportunities for your clients depending on where they're currently at, what their needs are, and how can you service them in a way that it benefits them, benefits you, gets them their customers.
Yep, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So as you do those things, I mean, what are some things that I'm thinking of other entrepreneurs who have maybe local geographic service-based businesses or
Yep.
even local geographic product, like the med spas that you're talking about.
Hmm.
What are some strategies that work for them? Like I typically work with entrepreneurs who have more like a national reach, but when it comes to local, What are kind of some key levers that work for that entrepreneur? Like I can imagine trying to build their Instagram channel might not necessarily be the best path forward. So what are some key levers that they can pull to get the awareness out there?
So we were always doing like direct response style marketing for them. More in particular. So two things that really work really well, then I always push, and we push more now. And this is actually the implementation strategy that we're using for Zero Daddy as well, is if you have a brick and mortar, so local service ads through Google are a great way to do it. They're a little bit more pricey. Facebook and SEO. So working on the SEO is always something great to have going on the back end. Just because you don't really want all your eggs in one basket, especially with Facebook. Because we've been kicked in the mouth a couple of times by the old Facebook dropping a hammer. There's hackers, and it's like it comes with its own set of hurdles. But I guess it all just comes down to the biggest thing, just like what you deal with too, is the offer, right? Have a compelling offer and know who your ideal client is. Know who the avatar that you want to serve is, and then finding them based off of geo radiuses, right? So you're basically, everything that comes down to local is like targeting the people within a certain radius and then speaking to them through the copy, right? So the copy that you use and the imagery that you use is what's going to pull in the people through like a certain demographic, right? Because marketing, especially with Facebook and everything else like that, has changed so much, where before you used to be able to target people based off of like the food that they ate, right? So now more of like a broader reach is starting to work better, but it all comes down to one, the offer you're using, two, the creative that you use. Does it actually catch the attention of the person I'm trying to reach? And then three, the copy, right? Use the copy to speak to the person that you're trying to reach. Like, so if it's a plumber, without actually saying like, hey, plumbers or something like that, you're going to be speaking to like their lingo. And that just comes from just taking a deeper dive into understanding like who they are, how they speak, their verbiage, their lingo, and things like that. Like I found to do like just doing like little bits of homework. So like talking to like the marketers out there and stuff like that. If you're working with local businesses, one of the biggest things is like taking your avatar. Like if you're getting clients for roofers and things like that, roofing contractors, then like dive into their world a little bit, like figure out like how they speak and things like that, and use that in your copyright, because they'll resonate with that. And whenever they resonate with that, they're more likely to convert into your world.
I love this, Mike. Like I've been in business for 18 years, and what I'm hearing you say is like really classic marketing techniques and processes. And it's great to hear how you're supporting local entrepreneurs who add tremendous value through these really classic and proven marketing strategies and methods. Facebook ads, which to your point has its problems, SEO, but really focusing on the copy, immersing yourself in their world, understanding the words and language and phrases that they're using, utilizing that in your marketing to really appeal to this ideal customer and client, which is it's great. It's awesome. Classic stuff. I love it.
Yeah. That's kind of like, I got that from more so just diving into, I know like Russell Brunson talks about it. Abraham,
Jay Abraham,
he talks about it a lot. So it's just more so just understanding and copywriting it. Actually, that's how, that's where this was like 2-3 years ago is whenever I first was introduced to you as well. I believe it was Russell Brunson and Josh Forte. They were on a podcast, and that's whenever I heard about you as well. And so it's awesome to see full circle here.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you are building up this agency and evolving, which is really cool to see, and you're building up this podcast, how is the podcast that you're creating with your friend Underground Pipe Dreams, how does that fulfill this greater mission to help service-based businesses? How is that part of your strategy?
So with it, there's two folds to this. So with the Underground Pipe Dreams, so the goal behind this is we want to build a platform that can service more of like people, like guys who are in the sewer and drain repair business or plumbing business, like to find these people that don't have, like, that aren't real big into marketing, like you mentioned before, that are out in the trenches and they're servicing and they're providing such value to the marketplace, but nobody really hears about them, right? It's basically to create this platform and to bring all these eyeballs on, for one, to be able to lift them up, right? To bring them on, to tell their story, right? To just kind of take like a smaller version of like what Mike Rowe does with Dirty Jobs, but on a specific sewer and drain niche, right? And then have the ability to make the connections between like some of these bigger companies and things like that. So like my buddy Shad Matthews, who's the owner behind Sewer Daddy or whatever, he's made connections with some of the leading manufacturers, like straight to the source, to be able to like plug and to move people around and make those connections and things like that. But to also, we do have another piece to this is he has also created a patent pending process to be able to take what we do with the trenchless sewer stuff. So which is basically through shooting liners in place and also using like special epoxy resin coating in different spots or whatever, to be able to apply it to pools, right? So a lot of times like people spend tons of money, right, on in-ground pools. And sometimes like the plumbing and stuff like that leaks from settling in the ground or whatever. Well, rather than having to dig up and replace your whole pool, we have the ability that we can come in and we can fix the lines often and fix the problem from leaking and things like that.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk more about that and dive more into there, because we're going to end up licensing that system out as well through a like a package licensing system or whatever for how to be able to sell to sewer and drain guys, to plumbers, to pool companies. If they want to add like another source of revenue to their income stream or their tool bag and stuff like that, our whole goal is to be able to sell like a whole system, like how to do the training, to apply. We'll supply them with the epoxies and all the tools and everything that they need to do, basically to create like just to basically take another sector of business and plug it onto theirs. So we're going to talk a lot about that as well, just because we just actually landed a big contract with a 5-star resort here in the area that we're going to be
Okay. That's really cool. So what's really cool is you're taking this platform, Underground Pipe Dreams, and you are supporting these local service-based businesses, but like everybody's going to be able to listen in, right? Yep. And these guys are going to be able to call and tell their wild and crazy stories. And like we get exposed to them and their product and service, which kind of is only relevant to the people locally in their area. And they're also going to be making connections and building a network that's going to allow them to create efficiencies in their business. And you're also promoting this trenchless pipe product and service that you are going to be licensing. So I didn't realize that your Sewer Daddy buddy, he's the creator of this technique.
Yeah. For the pools. So the process that he's done, like he actually created a manifold system to do it and everything else like that. The process in and of itself isn't so much like foreign to the pool world, but the process and the way that he's been able to formulate to ease it, like to do it is what is different and allows us to be able to do the smaller diameter pipes and things like that. Yeah. So that's kind of like the double, the two goals behind the podcast. So that's going to be more so, Katie, a nationwide reach effort with the podcast rather than a localized approach.
Right.
All of our localized approach is more so just like direct response style. And then some basic
specifically the licensing of the trenchless pipes is the national reach. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So the podcast is going to be the platform that we use and the outlet to be able to pull the eyeballs and to build the attention and the audience and things like that.
For the trenchless pipes.
Yeah.
Okay. Which makes sense because that's the product that you are licensing.
Yep.
I mean, just as you're talking about all of this, I'm remembering the first home we ever bought. And right before we sold it, the main water pipe that went from the water that came down my street to my house, that main pipe from the street to the house, it burst and my yard was dug up. And like within a couple weeks, the neighbor's yard was getting dug up. A couple of houses, like they all broke at the same time. And it is such a huge disaster. It's like all life comes to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to dig that all out. And it literally leaves scars in the pavement, in the asphalt, in the sidewalk. And this is a really incredible solution that does it, I'm guessing, very quickly. What is the cost comparison?
Oftentimes, so for instance, like we had a client who was quoted about $20,000 to dig up and replace, I think it was like 20-foot of line or something like that. We could have done it for probably 50% of that, under 50% of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a massive cost savings. A lot of times too, the time. So, cause we can service business, we can service residential. You don't have the extended time that is done. Like a lot of times, like we can get it fixed within 1 to 2 days, which would normally take somebody a week. Right. So, we're providing the long lasting solution through the product itself. And you're also getting the time savings.
So good. Mike, what's really cool is you're a guy who is trying and testing a lot of different things. And so I'm curious when it comes to either growing and building your own business or helping these local service-based businesses grow their customer base. What do you see that's working now? What are some trends that you're seeing and things that you find to be quite effective?
Authenticity is like the biggest thing. It's like,
tell me more.
Pulling back the veil of the business and showing everything from the behind the scenes to like what people actually see whenever they come in. So say like being true to who you are to resonate. I'm like a big person, like being true to who you are. So like don't feel as if like you're a business owner and you have to come on, just speak nothing about business and things like that. Like I'm like a big fan of like tying in multiple different angles of like your business. Because you're going to bring people in, especially I speak a lot of this through like social media, right? Because social media is like such a big channel that everyone relies on, right? So like, for instance, like if you're like a roofer or something like that, you own a roofing business or a dental business or something like that, like don't always just talk dentist, like talk about your staff, talk about you, talk about your, like if you're a Christian, talk about your beliefs, your family and things like that. Like get comfortable talking about a lot of those things, just because you'll pull people that resonate with different aspects to that. And then you never know who's going to end up being your client or who knows somebody that you would be a good fit to be their client, because referrals are some of the best sources that you can possibly get out there, right? Like if you do everything in your business that if my business only relied upon referrals, like, does this transaction right now, would I get a referral out of it? If the answer is no, like, well, how can you then change it up to be able so that you would get a referral out of it? So that's kind of like my biggest thing is like pulling back the veil, being true to who you are, being authentic. Don't be afraid to like speak your mind. Don't feel like you have to follow a certain trend of behavior or thought or whatever, whether that be from a local or a global level, right? Just speak out who you are. And then that tribe of people will congregate towards you.
Quick question for you. What would happen in your business and life if you could show up powerfully? As a coach to high-performing entrepreneurs, I help intelligent people like you do just that. And if you want to be inspired by people who are getting more done in 90 days than most people do all year, I'm going to invite you to go check out my case studies. The website is now.katierichardson.com/case study. And the cool thing is we've got so many case studies there. You can find an entrepreneur who's just like you. I've also got a link for you down in the show notes. Okay, back to the show.
So good. I have this friend who is a vlogger. He's had like 3.5 billion views on YouTube. And I asked him a similar question, like over those 8 years that you've been doing this, what's working? And he said something kind of similar, which was emotion. Like if you can capture genuine emotion. And what's interesting as you're talking about, don't always talk about dental, talk about family, talk about your faith, talk about your stuff. That's where you start to bring the emotion of dentistry into visibility so we can all see it. And to your point, it has to be true to you. It has to be true to you. People can spot and sniff out that inauthenticity very quickly. It's just kind of our nature.
That's so good. Yes.
Pulling back the veil of the business. I think that's really smart. You know, there've been different products or services where it's been recommended to me that I work with somebody in that category, and I reach out to somebody and it's like this unknown black box world. And it's really intimidating. I've never worked with anybody in that industry, and I don't know what to expect. And it can be intimidating just to pick up the phone and call that individual. And so to like show people who you are as a business and illustrate your values as a business and show somebody kind of the inner workings of that previously black box that was so unknown and therefore kind of intimidating, I think is really brilliant. And I just have noticed with entrepreneurs in general, building a business for the sake of money is no longer okay. People are looking for meaning and purpose. And when you can connect with them in this real way, whether it's family and values and faith and what's happening in the life of one of your staff members, I think to your point, it gives you a huge competitive advantage because people feel that emotional connection, right? There's something about that story about your family member or that staff member that really resonates with me. And then they have that emotional connection. And that's what causes them to reach out and I want to move forward with you. I now suddenly trust you versus that other guy who's still a big black box to me. And I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know what his intention is.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly it is being transparent and people will resonate, right? I mean, the old saying goes like people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust, right? So people, and I feel like now more so than ever, like people's BS radar is like full alert, right? Because we're getting pumped with it every single day. So the last thing people need is more BS pumped down their throat, in my opinion. So, and you see a lot of people online that are always just trying to like do it. I always say do it for the gram, right? Everyone's trying to do it for a like, and they're so worried about a like and everything else like that. Like if you're just authentic, you're going to attract the right people. And that's what I think it all comes down to, right? It's just not like taking on anybody as a client, but more so being able to attract the right people. And it's always coming down to your avatar, and your avatar a lot of times is going to be people that resonate with you. I mean, I know that I end up going to like, just for instance, like I'll look at reviews. My wife is huge on this, right? She's like the review person. She'll look at reviews for everything before we try a new place to eat. And it's like, we're going to look at like how people talk, like, and we kind of like build our, and then we'll go to their social media, we'll look at their website, and we'll kind of build this overall thought, and like we'll build this little character about like what we think about it, and just like, do we resonate with it? And I know like now, so more than ever, like we are at, like my wife and I as a family, we're diving into like who the company is as a whole. Like my wife calls around to the local farms and asks them about like their processes and procedures on like how they raise the animals, like how they get the milk, how their vaccination programs and everything else like that. Because we want to know, like, we want to know where everything's coming from. We want to know like the behind the scenes stories. And I've noticed even more like people that I follow, like farmers and things like that, they're starting to like come out on social media and to tell that, because they're getting flooded and infiltrated with people wondering the same thing. Like people want to know like the behind the scenes, like what am I getting? Because you go to a big box store, you don't get that. You go to a big box company, you don't get that. So like smaller businesses have that opportunity to peel back the veil and to be more transparent.
Yeah. So in that direction, I'm really curious to hear, authenticity. It's one thing to say it. It's a totally different other thing to actually do it and live it, especially on social media, especially for a business where, being on social media, being on camera, being on microphone isn't necessarily their number one skill. Yeah. So how do you coach or instruct, let's say like a plumber or this trenchless digger? how do you instruct somebody like that to actually bring in authenticity into their business in a way that they can stay true to who they are, right? Because it's a very vulnerable thing to be authentic. So how do you instruct people on how to do that?
It's a struggle. I'm not even going to lie to you. That's an ongoing struggle, just because a lot of times with these service-based companies, they're very operator focused, right? They're very just in the field and in the day-to-day workspace or whatever. And then oftentimes what I've seen to work best is like, you'll get some of them that eventually will get comfortable, like getting on video and things like that. But more so they'll end up hiring somebody that kind of is more so like their inner social media person, right? Like they might assign like a young office staff member. Like I have one, I have a med spa client that's been with me for a long time, like over almost 2 years now. And what they did was they took the young girl and the staff or whatever, and like they just said, here you go, like you can run the TikTok and you can make all this stuff and stuff like that. So they'll do that. I've seen local plumbers and roofers and stuff like that. This is what I've seen work really well with them is they'll take their outside salespeople and coach them and train them to be more so upfront and like present on social media. I've seen this work really well. I have a buddy who owns a roofing company in Texas, and his outside salesmen are always on social media, like reporting like day-to-day stuff. Like if a storm rolls in, they'll get on social media talking about the storms and what they're doing to help, and just getting on, like showing some videos like while they're on the job, doing different things like that. And like, even I find myself looking, I'm just watching, like, it's almost like I'm watching the Weather Channel move through, and Jim Cantori just moved in for like some hurricane or something. I'm just watching them as there's roofs and stuff like that. So it's just interesting things like that. But it's a hurdle to come over because, like I said, a lot of these guys are just old school
yeah, no, it's intimidating. And as somebody who has been on social media and in front of a camera for like almost 18 years, it's still intimidating. I once asked my brother, who was a broadcast journalism major, so he had lots of time in front of a camera. I was like, I'm struggling with this. What's the key? And he was like, of course you're struggling, Katie. It's a round black object. It's pointed at you and it's called shooting. And you're supposed to relax and be natural and authentic in front of it. Like, of course and it was funny because like starting with that, I was like, oh, okay. The fact that my body's tensing up is natural. Now what can I do to relax my body? That was kind of my method. Was I would notice that like every muscle in my body was like tightened. And if I could just relax my body, my voice would start to feel natural. But like I would get these salesy voices as soon as the camera was on. It was like all of a sudden a different pitch and a different inflection. It was like, where did Katie go? And so, which had me thinking, so I love the idea of like grabbing somebody within the organization who is already comfortable with it, who is excited about broadcasting and sharing, and maybe even to your point, has a sales background. So they're used to conversation and engaging with people, and having that person take the lead. The other thing I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this is to like kind of catch somebody in the act, so to speak, because it's like when they're already doing their thing, that's really awesome and incredible and amazing. Now you want them to like recreate that for social media. Now it's a performance, right? But if you can capture them in the act of doing it, or even like right in the heightened state of emotion where they just finished with that client or customer and answered a couple questions, but they're like still kind of mentally present with what they just did rather than trying to recreate it 2, 3, 4 days later. That's really difficult.
It is. Yeah. That's like one of the biggest things too, is just getting like, I know a lot of times, like for instance, what we do over at Sewer Daddy is we basically just like talk with everybody, and it's like, hey, are you good? Obviously we get their approval. Like, do you care to be on camera? Do you care if we use this on social media and stuff like that? Get their go ahead, because you obviously some people don't want to be on social media and stuff. So once you have them, it's good. Is exactly that. Like while they're doing something, it's just capture like, hey, we're out here on site, we're doing this, that, or the other thing. We got Jim over here, like just servicing up or whatever. We just finished up this homeowner's sewer line or whatever, got called up, you know what I mean? And just kind of tell the story. And it's like, as you're doing that, you're building, you're doing exactly that without actually having to get on camera, stare it in the face, create this thing or whatever. I mean, like as I'm sitting here looking at the camera, exactly like you said, I get nervous a lot of times too. And it's like, even if I just pull my phone, like here I am, like I'm 6'1" and I'm afraid of a little 5-inch box, right? It doesn't speak. It doesn't yell at me and nothing like that. Yeah. But yet the intimidation factor is always there. So
yeah, it is.
But yeah, you're right.
So what we're talking about is great because it's a way to pull back the veil of the business, like you talked about. And it's also a way for you to stay true to who you are, right? You're out there doing your thing, performing your magic, and somebody's just capturing you. And that somebody, by the way, can be like a nephew, a cousin, a child. Yep. Like I've had my kids follow me around with a camera, and it's just a matter of finding somebody to capture it for you so that you can then repurpose it and share it back online.
Yeah, so exactly. Good. And that's what the old saying I've heard a couple of people say about this is that like, document, don't create. Right.
Yes.
It's just document the process, show behind the scenes, show what's happening in front, like show different aspects, show the good, show the bad. You know, people don't always just want to see what's good. Like the struggles sell just as well as the triumphs do. Right. You're just building the story.
Here's the other piece of this, Mike, is I used to fall prey to this. So when I was in my physical products company in like 2013, 2014, 2015, I would shoot some raw video and then I would say, oh, I need to do this amazing thing with it and perfectly edit it and make sure the lighting's all great. And then I'll put it out there into the world, and things have really shifted. And sometimes we'll record something and then have the intention of sharing it, but not actually share it. Where are things today in as far as like the production quality and, you know, the level it needs to be at in order for it to be effective?
I always say just raw, just as raw as you can get. Like whatever you can capture with this little thing right here, the better. Just because, I mean, I even find myself just from like, if I'm recording things or whatever, like rather than pull out my camera, like this is always with us, right? This is like the easiest thing that we can possibly do. And the quality's there too. So it's good enough quality, but it doesn't look like it's been sitting on a tripod and edited professionally with music and all this other stuff like that. Like, I feel like that raw, almost like people want to feel as if like, almost like you pulled out your camera, you shot a video and then you sent it. Like sometimes like I'm real big, like having a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. A lot of times I like hands-free stuff. So if someone's texting me, I'll just pull up my phone and I'll do like a voice text, right? Or if like the wife or something like that, I'll pull my phone, I'll be like, you guys see this? And I'll record like a little short video and send it to her, right? And it's like people like to feel like that. Like if you're looking, I think that's the rise of like YouTube stories and Instagram stories and all that, and TikTok and stuff like that. That raw, uncut or unedited, like not poured and polished or whatever you want to call it. I think that's been the real thing. And that all comes back to that authentic look and that people want to be able to resonate with it. Right. And I think that's one of the biggest things is like, can I resonate with you? Can I resonate with how you're doing something, whether I'm trying to mimic it, duplicate it or whatever. And there's a lot of people out there that do that really well. It's just like literally just turning on the camera, going after it and done. Right. Even when it comes to paid ads, like some of the best converting ad videos that I've seen and done are just ones that are just been like, pull up a camera in my garage with Ty Lopez, right? He was like the guy who kind of was on the front end for me, at least that I saw. And that's it.
Yeah. Mike, you started your introduction to us with the fact that you're a Christian, you're a husband, you're a father of 2 beautiful kids.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes our drive and passion to deliver results inside of our business can also become this obsession that then starts to pull us away from those things that also matter to us. So what's something that you do to navigate the complexity of being a business owner?
I wish I had some fantastic answer for you, but every single day it's just a struggle. I mean, just like anything else, it's always trying to balance it because on one hand, you want to be with your kids. The other hand, you want to be with the business, but it's just a matter of like, a lot of times I just mesh them both. Like, like if I'm doing something, if I'm traveling, if I'm going to work or whatever, I do a lot of stuff remotely. But I bring the kids along with us. Like my wife and I bring the kids with us to do different things. Like my wife comes along with me for everything. It's like my wife is my best friend. And my
Mm.
kids, I feel like I want to best serve them, not by like just leaving them behind as well. Like if I can bring them along with me and they can learn from a young age, like what it's like to be able to see like business being built in the raw, then I want to be able
Mhm.
to provide them to them. That's like some of the best schooling, in my opinion, is to
Oh
be able
yeah.
to watch me, right? Because the kids are always watching
Yeah.
us. Like they're listening, but they're watching us first, right? And that's just, I mean, that's always been the struggle too for me, is trying to balance, it's like balance the ability to be a dad, be a business owner, be a husband, but it all comes down to like my order of operations, right? It's like my faith and my family come first and then business, right? So it's just like
Mhm.
order of operations. Like if my wife needs me, like boom, that's number one. Like my kids need me, boom, I'm there. Like everything else can really wait, but like those two things are like what I really devote the most time to. I'll figure out the rest later. It's not like I don't find myself like putting my business in front of them. It's more so like even if I am doing something with business and something comes up with those one of those two things, like that's where I shift my attention to be able to steer from. But um yeah, I mean it's always it's a juggling act for sure.
Mike, I love that. I really appreciate you sharing some of the details of that. It's not easy. And a lot of times people just give up on trying to prioritize family and God and relationships over their business because, in a way, it's a lot easier to just be inside of your business and deliver on the goods and services that you've promised there and say you've done it for the family, right? When in
Hmm.
reality, it's easier to uh, be in that world rather than create and develop connection and relationship with your spouse and your kids, right? So
Right.
I really appreciate you sharing the how it's not super straightforward, and yet at the same time it is important to you. It is a priority, and I think there's tremendous power, especially in the long term, in living your values. And it's never going to be easy, but it's the kind of thing that you move forward in your life and you look back and you can't regret that you have prioritized your wife and kids and your relationship with God over your business. And I have found, like, the business is always going to need me. It always will. It's
Yep.
always more customers that need you, and there's more emails to respond to, and messages. Those will always be there. And if I haven't spent the time to develop and make real connections with my spouse and my kids, then that other stuff doesn't really matter. It
Yep.
becomes hollow and empty. And that's a scary place to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. If I can describe it as one way, I think from the macro level, um, it's like we keep God in our relationships and in our home, and then we keep God in our family, in our business, in my business, the structure and everything else like that, and they all kind of stack within one another, and we kind of live and breathe that.
Mm.
And then from a
Hmm.
micro level, I try to, and obviously I'm not perfect, but I try to section off, like if I'm with my wife, then I'm with my wife. And then I try to piece out parts of the day where I'm just with the kids, even if it's for 15, 20 minutes, right? It's just like
Hmm.
phone down, computer down. I'm playing like cars and trucks with my son, and I'm playing
Yeah.
with like the dolls and stuff, or watching Blippy with them for like 15 minutes or something like that. Just like
Hmm.
being present, right?
Yeah.
And then spent trying to like to chalk off like 20 minutes to half hour just for like to meditate, to breathe, to get quiet,
Mm.
to pray, to read the Bible, things like that. And it's just like those little micro pieces throughout each day. And then even just throwing in working out and stuff like that. But that's
Hmm.
kind of like the micro level. And that's basically the juggling act that I try to do, is just like those little micro pieces throughout the day
Yeah.
stack up into like the macro view, and they just kind of all like fold and collapse inside one another. And then I just mesh it all together, and it's just like this easiest way to be authentic and be who I am, because like I don't have to like keep on putting on different hats and things like that. It's just like, hey, raw,
Yeah.
this is it. Like I got family, faith, everything.
Yeah. Mike, this has been super inspiring. It's so awesome to finally meet you. I've followed you on social media and consistently really resonated with your everything that you post. And it comes down to values. And I think there's a lot of alignment there. And it's been great to hear in greater detail how those values drive your business and the services that you provide and how it determines how you interact with your spouse and your kids and God. It's really awesome to share your story and message with my audience. So thank you so much for being here. If people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Instagram. I think it's, look me up, Michael Rhoads, or Michael J. Rhoads is my username. So Instagram's my favorite platform. I like that one. I like Twitter too. You can look me up as Michael Rhoads on Twitter. I think it's like Mike Rhoads 48 is like my handle I've had since I was like 15 or something. But yeah, those are the two platforms that I'm on the most, and that's the best way to get a hold of me.
And go listen to Underground Pipe Dreams. This is the podcast. Mike's going to start recording it this Friday, which by the time you hear it, it will have been recorded by now. Go listen to it. I can already tell you're going to hear some great stories. And who knows, maybe you know somebody who needs this trenchless pipe repair system, and Mike can hook you up.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. Hey, those roots they'll crush your pipes.
They really do. It caused all kinds of problems in our house. Yeah. And I'm just glad we called these guys names Sarkinen. I always looked for family names.
Yeah.
Sarkinen, and that was Sarkinen in Vancouver, Washington.
Awesome.
See, I still remember them.
See, you still remember. What a lasting imprint it makes.
It did. They were so great. But they didn't have trenchless. I didn't know about that. I think they didn't know about it. Maybe I should introduce them to the trenchless thing.
Yeah, there we go. We can coach them and teach them how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike, thank you. This has been amazing. And for everybody who's listening, this is what's working now.
Katie, likewise. Thank you so much.
Dun, da, da, da. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Awesome. This was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome.
So,
I mean, you just added tremendous value. It was really great conversation. I think there were a lot of gems that came out in today's conversation. Is there something that I can do to help and support you?
I appreciate it. No, not off the top of my head. How about anything I can help you with?
I mean, who should I have on this show? I love people like you who are not necessarily the big national name, but who still have tremendous value. So, who do I need to interview?
Honestly, if you really wanted to hear more from an operator's perspective, who is extremely knowledgeable, my partner with the marketing stuff, but also the owner of Behind Sewer Daddy and stuff like that, Shad Matthews, I can connect you guys.
That would be cool.
He's actually the co-host of that podcast we're coming out with.
Cool.
He is a wealth of knowledge, man. Like, so he doesn't give himself enough credit. I'll put it that way. Just as an operator,
I like those kinds.
He's also a visionary. He has spent more money on himself, like working on his personal development and his self. And I mean, from spending time at Tony Robbins Business Mastery, he's not shy to investing in himself and learning. So he doesn't give himself enough credit, but I will. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, I would love to interview Shad.
Yeah, definitely. So I can make the connection to you guys. Is it better for email or social media, or
maybe social, just because that's where you and I are connected? I'm not always great at my email. Every once in a while stuff.
I'm not an email person. I'm text and social media. It's the easiest way to get hold of me.
Yeah, same.
So yeah. If there's any way I can ever be of service or help or anything else like that you have going on, feel free to reach out. I'll help you any way I possibly can.
Do you still help med spas?
I haven't actively been pursuing them, but the ones that I have been with me for like 2 years.
I would think they are somebody who can like actually really afford you.
Yeah, they have. So with the program that we ended up doing, it was like we ended up doing $7,000 upfront for the 90-day program, and then after that, it's $497. a month for like the maintenance style thing, which has
That's
been
great.
working really well. Yeah. So the
And you were building funnels. What were you doing with them?
business and like a marketing in a box, really. So we
Cool.
used Go High Level to really build everything out. And that's
Nice.
kind of
Yeah.
where, so like my systems approach came from being out in the oil field because I was doing all the data and acquisitions on stuff. So I did so everything that was happening downhole. I had like 6 or 8 screens in front of me at all times. And I was working in what was the data van. So all the data that was happening out there on the pad was coming back to the van. We were collecting it. And then everything was being funneled. So I was like recording the data, tracking everything, doing all the billing. So like I billed out over $48 million worth of jobs and everything else like that. So I started to learn like systems and processes like really well. So then I took that and started to apply it to the marketing stuff. And I was like, well, how can I build all this in a way so like one, I don't need to hire a bunch of people. I can do it and kind of operates in the background. So it's just like me and one VA can do it because I built out the automations and the systems and the funnels and just did it in a way that like I can take it and duplicate it and just change a couple things, right? So take it, duplicate, and change a couple things. And it's been the easiest way. And I just found some offers that worked. And we have a couple of revolving offers and just everything has been filed and kept in like the cloud and stuff like that. Like I can just extract and pull and use. Yeah.
Yeah. That's super smart. That's really good. I have a client who has a med spa. And that's why it asked me, and they may need some help and support in some of their funnels and marketing.
Yeah, I can definitely help them out. We've, like I said, the one med spa out of Draper, Utah has been with us like 2 years now. So it's
That's
been
super cool.
Yeah,
and where are
it's been
you based
wild.
out of?
Pittsburgh area. So like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
You're right
someone
there.
in,
You're in Puerto Rico, right?
yeah, I'm in Puerto Rico.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be
it's really
beautiful.
good.
I actually follow Jerry Norton. He's down
Sorry,
there
cut
too.
out.
I
Who?
follow Jerry Norton.
Oh, Jerry's my next door neighbor.
Get out.
His kids are at my house almost every day. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was just listening to one of his YouTube videos this morning while I was getting ready. Like I listen to all this stuff all the time.
I can see Jerry's house right from here.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we're next door neighbors. I was just at his house last night. My daughter is in like a singing group with his daughter, and they just did a performance on his back deck.
That's awesome. Yeah, what are the odds?
Small world.
That is a small world.
Actually, he comes up a lot. I was just speaking at a client's event in Vegas, and it's a real estate event. And somebody was like, wait, Jerry Norton's your neighbor? I'm like, yeah, he just texted me from Italy. They were like, what? He's such a celebrity.
That's amazing. I look at one, I love watching his stuff for the fact that how knowledgeable he is with the real estate stuff, right? But two, how he juggles that with all like his family. He has a big family, right? 10 kids. Yeah. That's sometimes I have 2, and sometimes I'm like, how do I do this? So it's like, yeah. So I always look at that. I'm like, if he can do it, I can figure it out.
It's true.
Yeah. Like if he can record a video, like I can figure it out. And then he's like, that's another thing too. Like you watch his videos, kids are swimming in the background. Like that. I love that.
Yeah. Sometimes those are even my kids back there. You can see them. And my oldest boys, they get to go to, Jerry invites them to his high-end masterminds that he does. And he even hired my oldest son before he left for college. He was on his team and he was producing a lot of his YouTube videos. That's
awesome, man. See, I'm such a huge fan of that learning style too, just because traditional education is failing us faster than anything.
Yeah. Our kids are homeschooled, and it has allowed them to do those kinds of things.
That's the route that my wife and I have been talking about. Like we're going to go as well, like through the homeschool route, just because I came through the public school system, and it fails so many people. And it's like, it's a miracle. Like I didn't end up down like a bad road, just because of how common it is and how easy and how influential it is. Like, plus I have a theory, like by the time that my kids are of age in high school and stuff like that, everything is going to be based off of e-learning.
Totally. Yeah. Mike, this has been awesome. It's great to meet you. Great to know you. I'm asking myself in my mind, like, I mean, one way that I could help you is offer a coaching call. It's my magic. And it would be in exchange for the value that you just gave me on my podcast.
I appreciate that. That would be wonderful.
Okay.
I would love to do something like that.
Okay. Awesome. I'll send you a link to that.
Okay.
Book that for whenever a time works for you. And what I would invite you to bring to the call is usually the way people will utilize a call with me is help them to make a critical decision that'll allow them to move forward without hesitation. And that's just one idea. But sometimes they're needing clarity on something. Sometimes they're needing to make that decision. Maybe they're needing to better define some things within their business. So you can utilize it however you want.
I will 100% use that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I
cool.
would definitely need that.
I look forward to that.
I find myself with one foot on brake, one foot on gas a lot. So anyways, Katie.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because I'm an idea a minute. But thank you so much. I appreciate your
welcome.
time. And if I can ever be of service and help you as well, please just don't hesitate to ask.
Okay. Awesome.
Right.
We'll be in touch. I'll send you a link right now. Okay.
All right. Perfect. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. I am sitting here so curious to know, what is your greatest takeaway from today's episode? We talked about a lot of things, and my hope is something in particular is really popping up for you. And if you heard my message in the middle of today's episode and you're wondering, hey, Katie, how can you help me get more done in the next 90 days than most people do all year? I'm going to invite you to go to that website, now.katierichardson.com/case study. I have 8 incredible VIP clients who have been so generous to share their stories of the problems that they were facing when they first met me and what they have been able to do because of the formulas, the systems, the processes that I have taught them as they have learned this art of showing up powerfully in their business. So go find the entrepreneur who's most like you, who's going to inspire you to see new possibility. And if you so feel inclined, I'm going to invite you to go to the next page where you're going to see a 6-minute video and I show you the secret behind the work that I'm doing with these incredible entrepreneurs. It might surprise you. So go watch that video. And then if you feel so inclined, fill out an application, because you and I will hop on the phone and we'll have one of the most impactful conversations you have potentially ever had in your life. I've had a client say, Katie, that call was priceless. And I was like, cool. Can you at least name a price? And he said, at least it was worth $10,000. So you have an opportunity to qualify for that if you fill out an application, if you qualify and meet the minimum requirements. And please, by all means, keep listening. I'll see you in the next episode, and keep being awesome.